understand what I'm talking about. If they calculate your interest based on a 90-day year, it's going to be different from what you get with 365. Although you might prefer to have it calculated on a 90-day year. But availability, ensuring that authorized users have access to information and associated assets when required. Availability is also very simple, property. If you open your system and you want to have access to your account balance and you can't, that could be a reason to even close your bank account or to de-emphasize the use of that particular institution. So these are very basic, very fundamental properties of information. And when you dig further into them, then you begin to understand why ISO 27001 is such a fundamental standard in information security. Okay, let's go. The business case. For us, the whole idea of ISO 27001 started, actually started in 2008 or thereabouts. That's when we started thinking about it. So, you might say to yourself, wow, you started thinking about it in 2008 and you only achieved it in 2011. There are so many things to consider. For us as a bank, we were also going through CBN's enterprise-wide risk management process, which they have basically mandated that all banks, should embark on. And as we were doing that, and as our business was growing, and as our information technology infrastructure and needs were growing, it became more and more obvious that in spite of this growth, and in spite of what we were doing with the enterprise-wide risk management process, that we were not very coordinated in the way that the information was being managed. We were not very coordinated in the way that we even acquired things like software and infrastructure. And I think, with the core group that I have, with me today are part of the people who started this process, and I think they will agree that we were operating in a very ad hoc manner. Somebody could just wake up in a business area somewhere and identify a need for something. Maybe just give a basic example. Somebody says, oh, we need an education portal for schools to be able to pay school fees electronically. And before you say that, Robinson will jump into it, and somebody will either try to develop one or will go out and buy something. And there will be no attempt to see how it fits into the overall IT infrastructure or architecture that you have. There will be no attempt to see what the security implications would be. When you open your system, for example, to 40,000 students in a place like Nnamdi Azikiwe University, I'm sorry if there's anybody from that might be offended by this, but you have 45,000 students or so there, and you open your system for people to be able to just access in order to do either to pay their school fees or to make some other transaction. And you think that it's not important, and that it's unlikely that that kind of action could open you to anything. But you'll be amazed what some of these IT experts, I call them experts, can do. Before you can say anything, they get into your system and they begin to take passwords and so on. I'm sure some of you know what happened when the ATM scams were at their height about 2 years or thereabouts ago. We even received an email from a 28-year-old Russian who told us how stupid we all were. I don't know if any of you remembers that email. They wrote an email to us. How we even received the email, I don't know. But the guy wrote an email saying to all bankers in Nigeria, telling us that we were really stupid, we didn't know what we were doing, and that he has cracked all our systems, that he has the passwords and passwords to most of the ATM pins and customers. And indeed, he was actually working from Russia, and he was recruiting students, I think in Unilag, the boy we caught him at about 3 a.m. in the morning in Mbagwu at one of the ATMs. And he had a whole, list of people's PIN numbers and so on, and bank account details. So he was just withdrawing money from the various accounts. And how did he get these PIN numbers? From that fellow, apparently in Russia, this 27 or 28-year-old who spends his time just sitting in his flat in Russia and hacking into systems. That's what information security is all about. If you imagine the extent to which people can go, it wouldn't be a surprise to many of you who are experts, but to some of us at that time, we couldn't believe that something like that could happen. That somebody sitting somewhere in Moscow or wherever it was he was sitting in could actually get into a little, in quotes, system here and pick all our PIN numbers, not just from our bank, but from most of the banks. And he was recruiting people through the internet to go out and get money and send the money back to him. They would buy dollars and remit to him. And if you failed to remit, because he had a way of monitoring what they were also doing to some extent. So if you don't remit, then he doesn't give you more food. You understand? So if you don't remit, he wouldn't give you more PIN numbers to work on. So when you collect some, you keep some, you give him some. You know, I don't, it's unbelievable. You know, just imagine that. And this is really, I mean, I don't know, are you guys aware of that this was happening? Or have I released the trade secret? I don't think it's a secret, because I think because of that, we all tightened our systems. You know, we started to view ATMs more seriously as a channel. We started to work on information security, which is, the result is what you're now seeing. Many people are trying to get certified. Many people are building, you know, of course, the most basic firewalls and stuff like that, and many other methods of protecting our systems. Okay, so, you know, we needed to align our processes, we needed to improve them, particularly to protect ourselves. It was also cost reduction, because we realized that if we align our systems properly and we bring everything together, we will achieve a lot of savings. Instead of setting up different systems for everything, you can set up one system that can take care of you know, a lot of things. I think one very good example that we had was the issue of virtualization. For many years, we just, you know, everybody that makes a request to buy a server, I think Martin in particular will remember, who just buy and we say, after all, it's about 500,000 to 1 point something million, you know, for most of those servers. So we just buy. Before we knew what was happening, we had no space to put the servers, and the information was just scattered all over the place and so on. And, you know, obviously, there was a need to do something. So these are all scattered reasons why eventually we arrived at a business case for ISO 27001. We wanted to minimize business and operational risk. Obviously, you can see what the business and operational risks are of not having information security. We needed to provide business continuity. If you have a disaster, you need to have business continuity, and you can see it. You can have a disaster of flood, you can have a disaster of power, fire, etc. ISO 27001 provides that there are controls that you must implement, you know, to achieve all this. Sorry, let's go back to the business. Then compliance with regulatory and legal requirements. We don't have a regulatory requirement for ISO, but we have a regulatory requirement for enterprise-wide risk management, and that's why, you know, we try to put the two together, as you will see later on. Okay, and it provides the best practice model. And then the other thing, of course, it does is that anytime that you are prospecting a new customer or a new client or an associate, it helps when you tell them that you are complying with whatever they believe is world best practice. It removes a lot of doubt as to how they will deal with you. I'm going to give a very brief example, if you don't mind. We were prospecting Guinness, and they sent us a huge questionnaire to fill before we could do business with them. And when I looked through that questionnaire, I remember saying, certain things. You won't even need to fill this questionnaire. You just send them your certificate, and they will know what it means. So it's very, very important that companies that operate in an environment here seek out ways to adopt best practice. It changes the perception that people have of you all over the world immediately. The minute you just drop your, if you like, your credentials saying that you are either ISO 27001 or ISO 9001 or whatever, they immediately have a picture of what you are. They don't need to ask you certain questions, and they can proceed to deal with you appropriately. Okay, let's go on. Okay, the approach, basically, I won't dwell on this, but we adopted an approach where basically we split the whole thing into these 4 major areas. Obviously, the policies, which are part of those domains that I introduced, the 11 domains and the controls, of course, that go with them. The people, we had to assign and train our people. We had to create awareness among our staff. We are running awareness sessions almost every, I would say, probably once a week in one form or the other, in order to just make sure that everybody knew what ISO 27001 was. Our processes, of course, I've talked about extensively. And then, of course, the final product itself. Okay, good. This was basically what we did for implementation of an information security management system, which led us to the certification 27001. We conducted an internal audit and we reviewed, where we were. This was very early on when we were making that decision. We chose a registrar. There's something that we missed out here, by the way, and that was basically that we did choose a consultant to work with, because we knew that we ourselves did not have full knowledge. We had individuals who knew about information security. Some people had studied in school, some people were qualified, CISA, etc. But we didn't have a full picture, and so we needed obviously to choose a consultant that we felt would get us through. And I can tell you that that was it was a grueling journey. I'm sure that Dwayne knows what it was, because we first of all were looking for somebody who had done it before. But ultimately, we knew that apart from doing it before, you needed somebody with commitment and with the ability to even learn along with you. And somebody who would be able to take you to the end of this journey that we were embarking on. And I think that's the reason why I'm here today, because obviously we chose digital drawers. I think to date, I don't think we regret choosing them, do we? I'm very happy to have chosen them. I think it was a wonderful association. I must spend just a minute talking about this, because when you choose a partner for this kind of project, you pray and hope that everything that you expect them to be. You expect them to be committed, you expect them to be knowledgeable, you expect them to have integrity, you expect them to stay the pace and to stay the distance. And I must say that they did meet all our expectations in that respect. And that's the reason why I've agreed to come and do this talk. She knows that I don't normally just go and do talks, because I sometimes find it difficult to just talk about something, except I'm really convinced that it's the truth that I'm telling. So I must say that we had a wonderful relationship, and we're happy. She didn't ask me to say this lightly, thinking that, but truly speaking, they were a good partner, wonderful partner in this process. Okay, good. So, no, sorry, let's just quickly run through that. We chose a registrar, the registrar being the institute or the people who certified. In this case, it was the British Standards Organization, which is probably the oldest, if I'm not mistaken, probably the oldest of the registrars, and probably also the most widely respected, I suspect, also. So, we chose them for this. And if you check, you'll see that most people who are ISO certified have actually also gone through the ones that we did a pre-assessment. They say it's optional, but I don't think it's optional. I think it's something that really we should do. But some people may choose not. Pre-assessment basically is all those things we talked about, where you go through the audit process, you determine your scope, try to find out what is relevant or most relevant to you. Okay? Then, when we've done the pre-assessment, of course, we then went into the implementation. They missed that out here, but essentially the implementation is the whole process of establishing those domains and then the controls. There's something in ISO that they call plan, check, do, act. BCD, okay? And you plan, then you check, and then you do, and then, or is it the other way around? Yeah. That's why I said I'm not going to plan, do, check, act. Sorry. Okay, I always get confused with that. Maybe I'm mixing it up with some other things. But the whole idea is that you plan the things that you want to do, and then you do them, and then you check that you've actually done them, and then if, of course, you have not done some of them properly, you come back and you just keep repeating that cycle. We then went into the phase one. The phase one audit is basically a document review where they come and, that is, the registrar comes and takes a look at all the documentation. They look at the things that you have stipulated in terms of policies. They look at things like incident reports, basically those things that you've recorded. Because at that point you should have documented all the things that you need to do. And then when they're satisfied with your document review, then they proceed to an on-site audit, and that's when they come and actually observe. That's when I was telling the story about the security man who missed, one car. That could have been costly, but because we had performed so well, if I may say so, in the other areas, that turned out to be a minor non-compliance. That's what they call it. Okay, no, non-conformity. Sorry, I'm using accounting language instead of IT language. All right. So, when we finished with the on-site audit, I think the following day or thereabouts, he comes and tells you what the result is. He tells you whether you have been certified or not, or whether you have satisfied the requirements for certification. So he came in and did that in an elaborate session, and of course everybody was happy. And then thereafter, of course, you know that you're in trouble, aren't you? You're in trouble because now you've certified and you think that it's all over, but it's not over. What it now means is that they're going to come every year, or even more often if they think it's necessary, to see whether you are deserving. Because it's not a one-time certificate, it's a continuous certificate. And they can withdraw it if they find that you have gone back to where you used to be. And that's a lesson for us in Nigeria, because we are very, very fond of going back to where we used to be as soon as the exam is over. If you used to read 2 hours a day, when the exam is over, you stop and you just go to where you used to be. So I think they're coming in December, is it December or June? June next year. So we have to keep doing what we're doing in order to make sure that we maintain the certificate and even go beyond that, because there are other standards that also need to be attained to also even maintain this one. I think they've already pointed out what the next one is supposed to be. So we'll be attempting that. A lot of challenges. Obviously, budgeting was a major one. I remember the first budget that Lars presented, and I remember telling him, a few things which I don't want to repeat here about himself, because when somebody presents you with a shock, the first thing you do as a human being is to react, isn't it? And you can react based on the adrenaline that is flowing in your body, or you can decide to just take a deep breath and count to 10. I'm saying, but I think I decided to just react with the and I told Lars, many things that he himself would not like to. but we're still friends, and he knew that it was in the course of duty that I was telling him those things so that he can go and think again. And I think it worked to some extent because he went back and rethought the whole process with doing and cool and came back with something that was more palatable. So the budget is a major issue for anybody who is really thinking about it. You can go all the way to heaven, really, with this budget for ISO. But you can also decide to, stay on earth and live to fight another day. So I think we decided to just go up a little bit beyond that in our case. I don't know whether they agrees with that or not, but that's my own lucky day. They can't challenge me while I'm talking. what I say here is law. When I leave, they can say anything that they like. But truly speaking, I talk about budgeting because it was a really major. I don't want to even mention the kind of figures that were taboo in the first place, but eventually it still cost a lot of money. And of course it depends on your institution. So that's why I'm not going to give you a figure, because if I give you a figure, you probably decide not to bother doing it or thinking about it. But I would say please go ahead and think, because yours will certainly not be as expensive as ours if you're not a bank. For the banks, I think it's a little more expensive because of the nature of our business, other people's money, which I'm sure is what we do. Tangibles and intangibles. Obviously, there are equipment to buy, and then there are software and all kinds of things. The software, incidentally, I think were even more expensive than the tangibles. And that's something that I'm still trying to work out with my IT people. The intangibles are intellectual. Yes, please. Sorry.
So I'm going to take it last.
Sure, please.
Is it something you still budget for as you?
Oh yes, as you go on. Certainly, we haven't finished. So we have yes, because you have to maintain, these systems that you've put in place. That's why I said you are in trouble. That's what I meant when I said you are in trouble, because the minute you've put it in place, you really cannot go back. You have to keep spending. You have to keep updating and maintaining and upgrading and all kinds of things. Your network, your business continuity, your capacity, just keep going. So long as your business is also growing, that puts more pressure on you. And even if your business is not growing, things change. The world changes every day. So you have no choice but to just keep going. Skill gaps, yes, we corrected a lot of skill gaps. Many of our people who have never traveled abroad, travel abroad because of this thing. I'm not talking about this gentleman because they travel abroad all the time. In fact, in the office, they call them expatriates. Are you aware that they call you expatriates? They call them expatriates because they say some of them live in the air. There's one particular colleague of mine, is always making that too. Okay, training and manpower development is the same thing, really. It flows from the skill gaps. Resource management, the structure. We changed the structure of our technology group shortly after this certification because it was obvious to us that a lot of things were not in place. So we quickly did that. And I think I must say that I've been commended by a few people that that structure is much better. We took a lot of time to get to that, but finally we arrived at it, and I think it does reflect better our commitment to information security management and basically the principles of technology itself. Because from a layman's point of view, I always view technology as something that should work for the organization, something that the organization uses, to attract more business and make more money. Because that's really what it is. It's not just something on its own which looks good, but something that should make for the business of the institution to grow and to continue to prosper, and then of course to protect the organization at the same time. Roles and responsibilities. Okay, no, don't worry. I think that speaks in the structure. Those are the recommendations. Okay. I think we talked about this really in the process, so we'll just quickly skim through it. Choosing the partner, you need to keep the processes simple as you can, because one thing I've learned about technology is that you can easily get carried away. And technology people are fond of jargon. I call it jargon for want of a better phrase. And it's not a derogatory term, by the way. It's just, they speak in a language that many of us ordinary people don't understand. So whenever they come to make a presentation, you have to remind them that they must keep it simple. You don't want to hear things which we don't understand. But we're not interested in all those things. Just tell us as simply as possible. We needed to align the enterprise risk management process to ISMS. This was very, very important. Because the enterprise-wide risk management process basically mirrors the same kinds of principles, but those tend to concentrate in our environment more on risk assets, more on operations risk, market risk, whereas information security management is purely about information assets. Okay? So, but they need to be put together. Otherwise, you will not, in fact, without the enterprise-wide risk management process, you can't even achieve the ISO certification, because the things dovetail together, so complementarily that it's just impossible for you to do one without the other. Incident management process, this was very, very important because you use it to learn, like I said before, I mentioned this, so we're going. Conducting regular awareness sessions, we did that very, very fruitfully, I think, because by the time the auditor came, I could almost vouch that anybody in the bank that you asked about information security management will be able to give a fairly good idea and will be able to even define a few of the basic principles, and maybe even go to mentioning the 11 domains and 133 controls. When those ones, you begin to count them on one hand, perhaps those who can tell you what the 133 controls are. Then physical security, I talked about your generator house, for example. You wouldn't imagine that the generator house will be part of ISO 27001, but it was. If your generator house is accessible to anybody, you probably will fail. It will be a major non-compliance. Also, your generator is power, and if you have no control or security over it, then the likelihood is that you could be sabotaged by anybody who just gets in there and does something. I think the other day we had an incident, didn't we, where somebody who was decoupling the mast. We have a huge mast in our head office for communications. And the guy who was decoupling it dropped a metal object. And of all places for this metal object to drop on, he dropped on an exposed cable and cut it. And this cable is not just a cable for NEPA or generator, it was for both. So we had to quickly, put it together in a very temporary fashion. But, you can imagine. We couldn't use the generator, we couldn't use NEPA for about 30 minutes or thereabouts. Long enough to cause serious dislocation of service. Long enough for your customers or directors to get news that the bank is not functioning. And then people started calling me from all over the place. Of course, when that kind of thing happens, the last thing you want to do is to panic and begin to also call the people who are trying to repair this thing and start shouting at them. It doesn't help. So I just found out what happened, spoke to them, and I left them. But of course they knew that I was mad, and I think I showed it afterwards. I think the people in power and the people in IT got in front of the red eyes that I had on that particular day. But it just shows you the extent that we're talking about when we talk about security of information assets. You wouldn't imagine that a cable like that could be cut, because this is a heavy armored cable. But a piece of metal fell from, I don't know, 30 feet or whatever on it, and severed some of the times, and that was that. You know? I mean, the chances of that happening, I don't know what they are, but you can imagine. Okay. Educate your vendors, we did that. We called our vendors in for awareness sessions and tried to, get them to work with us. And then insist on best practice, above all else. You never get tired of insisting on best practice when you're trying to do this kind of thing. Anybody who is not complying, you have to really spend time to make sure. Because, it's a people's business that we're in. And I'm sure for many of you, it's a people's business that we're in. Okay? You're providing services. That's all. Okay. Okay, finally, conclusion. Yeah. So it's not a project, but a process that needs continuous or continual. I don't know which one is. Is it American or English? Which one? Continual is American also. Yeah, I'm sure most of you don't know. Everybody is raising their eyebrows. Say, what is this man talking about? Okay, all right, but it's a culture, really. I think ISMS is a culture. When you get certified, you are required to maintain that culture. The whole idea is that you have become a different type of organization or institution. You are no longer a Mama Put. You are now a Rolls Royce. Okay? I mean, maybe not a Rolls Royce, but perhaps something slightly. A good car. But really, truly, what it is that you are something different. You cannot go back. That's also the story. You can't go back. The minute you get certified, you just have to keep moving forward. Because when you go back, they will take away the certification. And all the benefits that came with it will be lost. Okay? Okay, I think I'll stop at this point and take any questions you have. I think I'll I was looking around and I didn't see anybody nodding off in spite of that breakfast. One tip, by the way, when you're going to make a presentation, don't eat heavily in the morning. When they offer you breakfast, just take a little bit and, in fact, I was saying I wouldn't eat, but they insisted that I should eat something because I was telling her that I don't normally eat, a huge breakfast. And she didn't eat, by the way, she was just watching me, and that's why she's probably making a better presentation now. Well, thank you very much for listening. Yes.
I think I'm sure you all found that pretty informative and lots of practical tips that I'm sure that you will benefit from there. I'd like to move on a little bit, from there and talk about some of the myths that I find that people hold about getting ISO certified. And my intention is to debunk those myths and focus on what we consider to be critical success factors and the pitfalls that we need to avoid. So very quickly, I'm going to be talking about those myths. I'm going to be outlining and implementation of that, identifying critical success factors and how to avoid the pitfalls. My first statement is that ISO 27001 is not about surveillance. It is not about technology. Now don't get me wrong, we need technology, but it is not about technology. I think Mbagwu gave an example about the auditor control security post. The non-conformity or the likely non-conformity was not about not having an automated system there to ensure that when cars are coming in, you're able to register them. No, it was about having a system that works. Whether that system is manual or whether it is automated, it's important that the system works. Now, without doubt, we know that automating systems help to make them more predictable and more effective. Okay? The reason why I put this here is because a lot of times when people talk about information security or any IT-related field, you immediately think that it's about deploying lots and lots of technology. It's not. Technology helps, but it is not about technology. It is also not about 100% security. So you heard me saying we're not there yet, but we're on our way. We're not where we used to be. We've improved a lot, and we're trying to get better. So the reality is that 100% security is a myth. Nobody can ever be 100% secure. I mean, we know the most sophisticated systems in the world are being hacked daily. Okay, so that's not really what we're trying to aim at. But we're trying to make it a lot more difficult for people to be able to affect or make us not affect our information for negative purposes. Remember that compliance is not security. So indeed, we can comply to the 133 controls. That makes it much more difficult for any attacker to address you rather than an organization that hasn't implemented an ISO standard. Okay? And what is the mindset of an attacker? They usually, especially when it's for malicious purposes, they're looking for people who they can bring down easily. So if they're going to need to work too hard at you as a target, then it's really not worth it. Okay, so it's not about 100% security, and it's remembering that compliance is not security. It's also not about a perfect system. It's about a continuously improving system. So when the auditors come, what they want to see is how much progress have you made? Where were you a while back? What kind of risks did you identify? What have you done to address those risks? So it's about continuous improvement, and they need to see that that is actually in place. They need to see that you are making an effort from a management and operational viewpoint to address the risks that are in the system. So it's not about a perfect system. However, it is about several things. It's about information systems. Remember that it is an information security standard. It is not an IT security standard. And there is a difference, because we're talking about information, not just technology. Okay? So it's about your information assets. I think I have a definition for that shortly. It's about ensuring compliance to this standard that has 133 controls. It's about understanding the risk that you face as an organization, or more specifically, that your information assets face, and managing those risks. So the risk management domain, the risk management discipline, is an integral part of getting ISO 27001 certified. So it is about continuous improvement, and here we have our policies, our processes, and our procedures that we need to continuously improve and implement. We need to achieve a high level of conformity with the standard if we want to get certified. And we need to ensure that we identify our risk appetite, and we are constantly reducing the level of risk that we face. Now, this is an organizational imperative, okay? Once you've identified your risk, if your organization says it's fine, we're facing a high-risk situation, but we accept it, the auditor is not going to question that. But they need to ensure that you have accepted that risk. Okay? Most people don't like to face risk that is too high. So usually, when you do your first risk assessment, you are allowed to think, wow, we've got to do something about reducing the level of risk that we face. So you come up with what is called a risk treatment plan, and you work your way through. And you know, risk is a dynamic thing. You do another risk assessment, new risks have been introduced, and then you have to do, for example, you know, when we were starting this process, if you look at risk assessment, environmental risks like floods would not have been a high risk at that time. But if you do a risk assessment today, for most of us, we'll probably see that that is an issue. Okay, so you need to focus on your risk, understand your risk appetite, you know, and then address the risk so that you can bring it to a manageable level. The tendency usually is that, you know, management teams don't like to sign up on high risk profiles. Am I wrong, sir? You know, nobody likes to say, I'm accepting a lot of risk. So we do need to work at ensuring that we're accepting a reasonable level of risk. The other thing I want to really emphasize, and that is what most of my presentation is about, is that it's about building an enabling culture. It's about your people, your processes, everything within your system, and adjusting to the fact that you are trying to comply with an international standard. And that is more of a cultural thing than a technology thing. Okay, so it's really about ensuring that we have an enabling culture. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. Information assets, just for clarity, you can define it, there's an ISO standard that defines it as information, data, hardware, software, telecoms equipment. All of these things are classified as an information asset. So that is what your ISO standard aims to secure or protect. So it defines information as an asset which has value and therefore needs to be protected. Okay, so that is the definition of information asset. Now, I think we've seen the standard, but I'd like to just focus on this. We've got 11 domains of of which 7 of them refer to management domains. 3 of them are physical, 3 of them are technical, and 1 of them is physical. Now, here, the smaller triangle shows us the things that we need to put in place in order to get ISO certified. We need to have an information security policy that we are implementing. We need to understand our risks. We need to have an ISMS policy which is focused specifically on your information security management system. And we need to have a statement of applicability. What is a statement of applicability? 133 controls. Do you need to comply with all of them? Perhaps there may be some of those controls that are not applicable to you as an organization. So your statement of applicability is that document that outlines which of the controls you are complying with, what your conformity status is, and which are not applicable to you. Now let me say that if a control is applicable to you, you cannot choose not to comply with it. Okay, but what kind of control may not be applicable to you? For example, if you don't do any software development at all in your organization, all your software development is outsourced, and there is a control that specifies or addresses software development, then you can put in not applicable. That's access. Okay, so out of the 133 controls, you may find that maybe there are only 103, 105 that you need to comply with. Okay, so that's a justification for which controls you need to comply with and which you don't. So you need to understand what your compliance requirements are. So in trying to accredit to the standard, you need to build an enabling structure. This statement says that effective security of your information assets requires strong management commitment. Strong management commitment. I cannot emphasize that enough. And I think that having a project sponsor like Mr. Mbagwu was a huge help because there was interest and there was commitment. And if that is not in place, we are fighting a battle that is losing out. And that's the truth. So whatever it is you need to put in place to ensure that you've got management commitment, not only at the onset, but that it is sustainable, is really important. So strong management commitment. In fact, if I was to address one critical success factor, only one, I would choose that. Strong management commitment. Strategic processes, education and awareness, assessments, and relevant technology. Remember that it's not a project, it's a process, so it's an iterative cycle. So when we talk about the need to build an enabling culture, why is this important? Because culture dictates behavior. It determines what things are permitted or not permitted in our environment. It determines what is, I think it was Martin that gave a few examples. And it's not in this process. Sometimes you may not become the most popular person in the organization. People doing things that are not in line with your policy. Martin is the ISMS manager. So somebody comes into the data room who is not organized. I think you said that walk a few people out because they didn't have their proper identification. Walk them out. Okay, so we've got to be prepared to be a stickler for the standard. Because if we want to be the nice guy all the time, we want to achieve it. So it's about knowing the standard and about ensuring that we're sticking to it. And it's culture that dictates behavior. Because if we say this is not permitted in this environment, then people behave accordingly. So I have a question here. It says, what is our national culture as regards information security? Does anybody want to offer a response? What is our national culture? Everybody's smiling. We do things anyhow. Thank you. That's a nice description. Any others? It's our national culture.
We have to be of being reactive. Reactive in the sense that you need for things to deteriorate and now try to mitigate.
What did you say?
No, I don't think we have a national culture as far as
Doesn't exist.
My answer is not to this question. It's actually a question. In the earlier slide, we were talking about the statement of applicability. In a situation where you outsource your software development, is it possible you communicate applicability to your third-party partner to do or because
no, you are required. When you outsource, you cannot, you can delegate the responsibility, but you can't allocate. So there's still oversight that you have to have. For example, you would have built in rights to own clauses in your SLA, in your partner. So there are other requirements that you must maintain for outsourced partners. Okay? But the controls for the software, you will not be held liable. It's your responsibility to ensure that the partner is through SLAs. So the way that you craft your SLAs, the detail, the enforcement of the SLAs are things that are going to address that. Well, my response is to show you this. What is our national culture as regards to security? This is unusual. Okay, so we see a lot of confidential information being used for stuff that is not confidential. This tends to be the tendency we have to security on a national basis. So when we talk about building a culture, we must start from the individual, professional, become an institutional or corporate thing, and then hopefully we get to where it's becoming a national level. Somebody said that it tends to be reactive. So we've seen that recently there's been stimulus in our environment, our national environment, that has led to government paying a bit more attention on security and security. Unfortunately, they see it only in the physical dimension. Okay, so now people know that we can have bombs, which wasn't something that was on our radar. Okay, so they are beginning to act, but they need to see it a little bit more holistically. So when we talk about building a culture, there are three wills that we need to bear in mind: the technology will, the process of control will, and the people will. And I have tried to indicate, in my view, the impacts of each of these wills on attaining certification. Technology, all of them are important, but perhaps not equally important. I have a quote here that says that technology is important, but you know, technology is available. It's not something that we need to reinvent. It says that respondents are satisfied but not enjoyed security technology. Use of all security technologies increased. This was a study that was done a while back. So people will continue to implement more and more technology to improve our security situation. But the good news is that a lot of that technology already exists. But because of the dynamic landscape of the threats that we face, we need to keep looking at the landscape and ensuring that we have sufficient technology to deal with it. The challenge is more to build what I have referred to as a human firewall, which looks at your policies, procedures, processes. I call this a framework of acceptable behavior. Awareness of these by the employees, knowledge of the acceptable behavior, and total commitment of all employees to be able to attain this. So what are we saying here? We've got to have a policy framework for this, but it must not be shelfware. Because indeed, that is what the standard is about. It's about implementing it. So if the only way you can implement it is through people. So people need to be aware. Mr. Mbagwu talks about the awareness sessions that they had at Fidelity. They had, and this was not just the head office, this was nationwide. The teams used to go branch by branch to let them know what the requirements of the standard is and what the implications are on their work practices. There was widespread awareness, and that really, really helped. Okay, even though the scope was not the whole country, but that really helped. So we need to put this in place because at the end of the day, it's the people who need to implement the process. So how do you put in place a human firewall? The first one is your policies, processes, and procedures. This quote says, make the protection of corporate information assets the law. Okay, so it's the law, lay down the rules. Make adherence to policy and standards a condition of employment. Policy, standards, and procedures must become part of our living structure, not just the policy development. So it says, make it real, and make it count, make it make sense. Okay? Make people realize that there isn't an option. And when we talk about the policy framework, there are many levels. Your corporate policy, your functional policy, your standards, your baselines, and so on. And alongside this, you've got your guidelines and your procedures. The second component is training, education, and awareness. I thought this was a really interesting one. Some of you are familiar with this chart. Kevin Bigley. He's he's still a hacker, but now he's an ethical hacker. He was a black hat hacker before. And he says here that the methods that will most effectively minimize the ability of intruders to compromise information security are comprehensive user training and education. Enacting policies and procedures simply won't suffice. Even the oversight, the policies and procedures, even with oversight, they may not be effective. My access to Motorola, Nokia, AT&T, Sun depended on the willingness of people to bypass policies and procedures that were in place